Concentrates the mind. Expertise, I'm afraid. So.
This evening by Trevor Roche. Northern Aeroplane Workshop is a very active group, currently building aircraft for all the collections, and they've built several aircraft and others coming through. They're very strong volunteer supporters of the collection, tucked away up in Yorkshire, doing a very useful job indeed. This is the first of the aircraft that they've built for the collection. They've worked a very... Now this is M1C. This M1C is taking off. That's being flown by Roger. M1C has a fantastic performance for an aeroplane of that era. 1916 design by Captain Barnwell. First Bristol I'm going to go off the air for a while, apparently. I'm disconnected temporarily there. Just let me remind you that the height judging competition is about to take place, so to any sort of emergency I can be called on it, so I haven't got to move upstairs. As I was saying about the Bristol M1C, it's got 110 horsepower, also a rotary engine like the Sopwith Triplane. It's a very fast and manoeuvrable aeroplane, and only 125 were ever ordered, and it didn't see service in this country. Mostly served in the Middle East. It didn't serve on the Western Front. But it was the RAF's first monoplane fighter when the RAF was formed in 1918. This machine, too, is a reproduction built by Northern Aeroplane Workshop in Yorkshire. I think the reason there were so few Bristol M1Cs is that people were very biased against that sleek monoplane aircraft. And I think the idea of the M1C landing as near as possible into wind, which is very important. It's Roger Bailey flying the M1C. He's chief test pilot at Cranfield and also chief flying instructor of the Shuttleworth collection. He carries out check rides and Piper Cub is a genuine original L4 which saw service with the United States Air Force in France in 1944 during World War II. L4, L stands for liaison. In civil form it had a J number, and the J3 and the L4 Cubs are very identical. There we are, he's dancing wing waggle. I thought he was going to go in the opposite direction, but that is it. Judge the height at which he did that very extensive wind waggle just then. This particular Cub has a 65 horsepower Continental and cruises only 73 miles an hour. He's got to get all the way back to Popham in Hampshire tonight before dark. The owner of the Cub likes to call himself Rex of Winchester. I know his name, but he prefers to be called Rex of Winchester rather than by his actual surname. He's been a gliding instructor and a tug pilot at the London Gliding Club for more than 25 years. He does a lot of flying in and out of farm strips. He builds and flies vintage models. Very quiet, gentle aeroplane. Although this Cub has an engine of only 65 horsepower, Super Cubs went up to 150 horsepower and they had a really massive rate of climb. It's a very light aeroplane. It's a piece of gentle, slow flying. flying you see now by the Cub is a direct contrast to the flying you're going to see with the Sukhoi in a few minutes. Really energetic aerobatic stuff, which is very different from the gentle flying that Rex is showing you in his Cub. The two-seat tandem aircraft, strangely normally flown solo from the back seat to keep the centre of gravity right. The later Cubs could be flown, they were altered so they could be flown solo from the front seat. If you look as he goes, I know there is absolutely no excuse for any pilot ever shooting lines, and I try not to do so, but I can't resist one, seeing this Cub, because those of you who know Gatwick Airport, and I'm sure many of you do, may be interested to know that in 1950-51 I did a bit of instructing from Gatwick on a Piper Cub when it was a very nice grass aerodrome. How times have changed. Now's the tricky bit in this strong wind, Rex landing into wind, tail down wheeler, which is the sensible thing to do in a strong wind like this. But the Cub's very light, very sensitive to bumps and strong winds. Gets out, you give him a bit of a clap. Do no harm at all. Now after this we go on to the barnstorming, so I will depart with the microphone and hand over to Kevin Panther, who will describe all the barnstorming that's going on, and I'll come back to talk about the Percival Provis, which you see as the last aircraft in that lineup. Very nice 3-point landing by Nick. But I think this aeroplane, being heavy with a fairly high wing loading, is less disturbed by today's wind than the majority of the aeroplanes that you'll be seeing today. Over now to Kevin Panther, who will talk to you about barnstorming, and I've no doubt he'll talk a lot more sense than I've been talking, and I'll come back to you to talk again a little bit after this is all over.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's very easy looking out across the grass aerodrome here at Old Warden to think that you've slipped back in time. Well, today we are going to slip back in time to the 1930s, a time when there were real aeroplanes and they took real men to fly them. Today we are going to a time when the pilots would spend their hours practicing with flower bombs, balloon bursting, and flying underneath a limbo ribbon. Today we're going to be demonstrating barnstorming. This was a very popular activity during the 1930s. Today we have 4 aircraft lining up for you, being flown by some of the most experienced, now working as a test pilot at BAE Systems. Number 3 is the Miles Magister, the collections aeroplane in camouflage with yellow, being flown by Chris Huxted, another very experienced pilot, this time chief test pilot at Boston Down. And number 4, just about to start rolling now, is Underdog, first display for the section, and make its name in the Cabin Chipmunk. Yellow. Now, with all of you, favourite aeroplane, and cheer it on. There'll be completing some very difficult tasks for you today. The first of which is ground. Ground crew will use their positions on the ground. Just waiting for the problem. And as soon as he's clear, the volunteers will move the board out into position. You can see the aircraft just flying downwind. Hopefully it's given enough time for the pilots and the ground crew to put the board out. This is one of the most dangerous jobs, flower bombs. They've all opted today for plain flour, as apparently this gives a better aerodynamic coefficient, or so they were telling me. The ground crew are now clearing out of the way very wisely. As Pete Holloway comes in. Can he hit the target? No. When it's on too far away, it's not bad. And a lot of experience. Mark 1 eyeball as the aid to bombing, and he says it never fails. I think it's common sense. Shaking. Apparently it's not due to the way he wiggles the aeroplane. This is his first display, so make sure you give him a big cheer. He needs all the encouragement he can get. And it's not bad, actually. Big Holloway is now coming in second attempt. And he used that to buy aeroplanes. So he now has several aeroplanes based at the collection, which we now affectionately call his Hair Force. He's now coming in. And, oh, very good. About the right distance, but a little bit off to the side. Posting out the laser. Got a good job. The current Navy pilots have much more technology at their disposal. He'll now demonstrate how good the Mark 1 eyeball is. It's coming in fast and cheating by using 2 flower bombs, but still missing. Can he hold on to his tenuous lead? In he comes, a bit of a shake there, a bit of a wobble, it's very windy. And, ooh, very good, I think he probably won that round. For his first display, he's doing very well. Holloway's seen them. He's rising to the challenge. Right enough. No, the balloon's going too fast, the tiger off. And oh, just bouncing off the propeller. What do you call unlucky? Well, we don't do any point. In comes Chris Huckstep. Will he have more luck with balloons than he did with flour? See how the propellers going through the respective balloons. They get close. In he comes. He's seen the balloons. He's rising towards them. But possibly all the balloons will be collected later on and bring you. And oh yes, it's got one. Well done, Peter. And Paul also managed to hit the balloon. Yes, he can. Another pop. If he was showing off, of course, he'd probably just try and go through all of them in a line. Let's see, can he manage to hit one of the 6 balloons that are there? Yes, he can. Peter Holloway has given that up. His first attempt at this balloon tiger off, so he got decided in that above and he's done it before in the Magister, but of course he's got one less wing on that one. Paul Stone, test pilot, nothing phases him and through he goes. Nerves will not get the better of them. Chris Huckstep also coming in. He has to be careful not to let the wheels touch the ground or he'll be disqualified, but he managed to do it. Well done, Chris. In he comes, coming in quite fast. It's looking good. And yes, he's managed to do it. Well done, Shaking. A good display debut from Paul Shakespeare. Again, it looks a bit high and it looks like he's giving it up again. These positions are not good to be a third so that's looking a lot more steady now. That's much better. And yes! Knocked it off the clearance. Can he make it 3 out of 3? Yes, he can. Chris Huckstep also coming in. Can he manage to get another limbo pass? That's looking better this time. Yes, he's through. Let's have the shakes, but this is looking good. And he's done it. Well done, Shaking. Well, I think Cornerstone, just going past. The windwalkers are running out to Peter. Being the Tiger Moth, it is very hard to control on the ground with wind like it is today. But I want you all to give everybody a big cheer as they come back in. They can all hear you. Chris Huckstep now comes over the fence. Peter's just wisely waiting for the ground crew to come to him before attempting to move off. Shaky. Now coming in as well in the Chipmunk. But in he comes. And a lovely three-point landing there. It looks like he's been doing that all his life. Stone now coming in as well. You'll see all the aircraft taxi in front of you as they all... And if you look very closely, I think you'll see that Peter Holloway has managed to outshine all of the others. And not only did he burst a balloon, he's actually caught a balloon.
After that, XF836 was acquired by the Shuttleworth collection and was on strength for several years, but in my opinion, wrongly it was sold. Some later, another one was replaced. When the Provost first came into service, it had an even better performance than the one you see tonight, because after they'd been in use for a short time, a number of them blew the cylinder heads when they were at high power after takeoff. So their boost was reduced, and that prolonged the length of the engines. But in actual fact, this particular aircraft was applied this paintwork to Liberty to Oman, I think it was, and had RAF roundels just for that very price. So you can reach your own conclusions of whether you think the Provost ought to be camouflaged or his normal standard aeroplane. Very adequately powered for a basic trainer. I'm biased, I know, but I'm a better basic trainer than the jet rocket statue, but that's purely a personal opinion. and on the Notable Prince and Pembroke.
Oh no.
So it's a very well used engine.
Wait a minute.
Nice gentle touchdown by Frank Chapman. We go from post-World War II to World War I with two German aircraft of the World War I era. Starting off with the Booker Bestman, which is one of the aircraft recently acquired to live here with the collection, but owned by Peter Holloway, who owns the Magister as well here, and one of the Ryans that you'll be seeing later on. The Bestman was designed by a Swede, J. Anderson, who is better known for the Saab Sapphire. He was the primary trainer for the Luftwaffe, powered by a Hertz engine. Here we go, now taking off. Bestman. He flew it into Old Warton from Ferry, but Peter Holloway bought it. He's been here for a very short time. Interesting in the book is that the Yorkshire 203. It's only recently been registered here on the British Register. Spent some time at RLM Aviation at Ferry. Nice hesitation roll. I don't think that's very easy on an airplane like that. Might be somewhat distracting having aerobatics above and other displays below. One's attention gets called from one to another, but they are both aeroplanes in the same state. They are both together. And then the Bestman. Surprisingly, some youngmen were used for night ground attack work, which seems a surprising use, I suppose, for an elementary trainer. The youngman was built post-war in many countries. This one was built in Spain for the Spanish Air Force, and it came into England in 1987. Painted to represent a Luftwaffe machine that was flown to this country by two Frenchmen from under the noses of the Germans.
What's that?
Final break by the two Bookers. By air traffic is waiting to fly back to Popham to get there before dark, but it's cruising at only 90 miles an hour, so it needs to go fairly soon. From 1942 onwards, and there are still 100 flying around the world, mostly in the USA. Only two of them are flying in the UK, and you've got them both here tonight, and they both live here. Booker Youngman landing, and the Bestman is on long finals behind. PT-22, the PT designation stands for primary trainer, and it was really in a way the US equivalent of the Britain's Miles Magister. These aircraft, the Peters aircraft was issued to the United States Army Air Corps in May 42 and served continuously until demobbed at the end of the war in 45. It has been continuously flying since 1942, hasn't been stored or knocked up or broken or anything like that, it's been flying throughout its life. both powered by 160 horsepower Kinner 5-cylinder radial engine, which I suppose is very roughly equivalent to the mongoose on the Hawker Tomtit. Strangely, as these aeroplanes fly past, you'll hear a strange sound, because although they're 5-cylinder radials, it sounds as though there's a lot of misfiring going on, because the strange sound is because 3 of the exhausts are just studs, but the top 2 exhausts go into a collector ring, and presumably this is to protect the pilots from the exhaust gases. So you hear 3 loud bubble pops, Kinner engine, especially when it comes past close quarters. You can hear it now. Followed by another one, Tracy's machine. This is still pop. Taking off in the car to fly home to Sopwith. Just waving us goodbye. Out here the takeoff point and the tutor to the galaxy, starting a couple of times, and these both came into service in the early 1930s. Had a number, after World War II service in America, it had a number of private owners in the States, and it came over to the UK in the 1980s. Those aircraft have their own individual famous planes. Tracy's one, that's the second one in the fly past, being retained by the makers for test. Called it John Allison tonight. Both the Tomtit and the Tutor were designed for an administrative specification. The Avro trainer had the same power unit, but eventually the Tutor was boosted up a bit, strengthened up a bit, and given an Armstrong-Siddeley link of 205 horsepower. So the Tomtit and the Tutor finished up as rather different aeroplanes. The Tutor got the main production contract and served as standard trainer in the Royal Air Force through most of the 30s, and the Tomtit served in only small numbers, but did serve with number 3 FTS at Grantham, or Spittlegate as most of us know it, and with the Central Flying School at Wittering, and the Prince of Wales used to fly one with 24 Squadron at Norfolk. Most were retired in 1935, and several were placed on the civil register, including this particular aeroplane, which had quite an interesting career. Flown throughout the war by Alex Henshaw, well-known Spitfire test pilot at Castle Bromwich, Birmingham, and later it was owned by Neville Duke, who many of you will know died very recently. And although Neville Duke flew all Hawkers, had a Hurricane Heart Tomtit, and they used to send these round to various air displays. And they were all at that time painted in dark blue and gold colour schemes. The Hurricane is now PZ-865 with the Battle of Britain flight. The Heart's in the RAF Museum, and this is the Tomtit. Now taking off first is the average Tutor. John out of the wheel. Oh, what a difference in the weight between the two aeroplanes, and indeed between the performance as well. But they did how this happened, nobody ever seems to know, but the tutor remained in RAF service until the end of 1946, long after all other tutors had been retired. It was registered GAHSA, and they come and pass together. The tutor is fully cowled with an exhaust string. Up and down. Popping from the cockpit, not dissimilar. You'll note if you look at the tutor in plan form, it's got long, thin wings. And because Avro or remote was indicated very near the leading edge, and therefore a long, thin wing providing more lift. Really was quite a luxurious aeroplane for a trainee. It's got a bit more about it in a minute, but you'll see it's now in a completely new colour scheme, which I'll explain in a minute. The tutor flew for many years with its correct serial K3215 in its yellow pre-war colours, but was revamped and repainted. Total of 41 top jets were built, mostly for the RAF. Tutors were built for the RAF. Even in those days, it was very small scale. .9,000 were built before, during and after World War I. Fighters, green, aircraft, and horses. Very interesting actually, but it's very much a pilot's aeroplane. But apparently, I don't suppose there's anybody around these days who can make a direct comparison. Pilots who flew the Gloucester Gauntlet before the Gladiator came into service complained when the Gladiator came in on strength because it was nothing like as pleasant to fly as the Gauntlet, which is a pilot's real aeroplane. So I wonder what the Gauntlet was really like. The Gladiator is a pilot's aeroplane if ever there was one. But the Gauntlet seemed to appeal more so. Now we have the Hurricane, Sea Hurricane, flown by Keith Dennison. Lysander by George Ellis. George is flying from EasyJet. One time a Redfield. He used to fly the last remaining Mosquito enough. Dockyard. Four Browning forward-firing fixed guns. Served mainly in the Western Desert, Greece, Norway, and of course, very famously in Malta. number of them were operated during World War II by the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe. They had been delivered to Latvia. The German Air Force took them over and kept them going till 43. You'll notice that the cockpit of the Gladiator is open. As I said, Trevor Roche, like almost all pilots, finds the Gladiator much more pleasant to fly with the cockpit canopy open. It feels a little bit cramped and claustrophobic with it closed. I think as an actual flying machine, I think the Gladiator probably takes an awful lot of beating. I don't think there's any other aeroplane in the Shuttle collection that is more pleasant to fly than the Gladiator. Powerful, responsive, maneuverable. As you'll see this year, it's been repainted. It was painted in the Norwegian Air Force colours for a film. Originally known in civil registration as GAMRK, and it was initially restored by Viv Bellamy. You see them both in the air at the same time, which I'm sure will happen. Some of you may remember last year when on one of the only occasions when we got 3 crystal fighters in the air. Now how about this formation? Gladiator, Hurricane, Lysander. Hurricane was the RAF's first monoplane fighter, although this machine in fact is a Sea Hurricane. Dennis. Hurricane advantage. First squadron with Hurricanes, the famous Treble 1 squadron. After World War II, there were 18 Hurricane squadrons compared with 9 Spitfire squadrons. Everybody seems to know the Spitfire very well. It's not many people chosen aeroplanes, but not undervalue the Hurricane, which earns its keep very effectively in many, many ways, both in the RAF and in the CRL. At the peak of production, turned out 12 Hurricanes a day. Most had 8 Browning machine guns, that's twice the power of the firepower of the Gladiator. Airplanes must not be undervalued during Changing original Merlin. But Paul Fallon was so close at 276, so they both win prize flights. Will they please come along as quickly as possible, control tower gate, make their cross, and as soon as possible, and claim your prizes. Well done, both of you. Hurricane finally retired from RAF service in January 1947. That's first line service, when number 6 squadron had Mark 4s in Palestine. Remained on the second line to unofficially. My station commanders and other senior people. By General Aviation Limited, General Aircraft Limited, and went to Yeovilton. Yeovilton is still a very active naval air station today. In fact, one of only 2 active naval air stations in Britain. Nice way to spend it. Not perhaps the perfect summer evening, but nonetheless. Back is rather gorgeous.
Put it in there. This baby was cold. It's cold.
Crackled as much as it sometimes does, but I think they got the message. Lysander was George Ellis at the pole. Pebbles is appearing from north of the field at the moment. Right? Also used for sea rescue and target duties. And whilst most people know about the Lysander's use for these special operations duties over occupied territory, a lot of people, and I didn't know until relatively recently, there's a lot of sterling for use flying at night, 300 nautical miles into occupied territory. I don't think George wants to land in occupied territories to pick up somebody or deliver somebody, to get away again without being found out, and the people on the ground not being found out either.